Welcome to Behind the Case podcast, a podcast that focuses on navigating the challenges our clients face with divorce and family law in Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas. Behind the Case is brought to you by the Turner Monahan legal team. With over 70 years of collective experience in divorce and family law. Together, Tyler Monahan, Keaton Monahan, Tina Campbell, and the Turner Monahan team will discuss real-life cases, answer questions, and explore family law areas from divorce to child custody. Our goal is to clarify scenarios and demystify legal jargon, making the process less daunting and reminding you that you're not alone. So sit back and let's discuss what happens behind the case.
Hello, my name is Tina Campbell. I'm a family law attorney in Fort Worth. I've been practicing family law about 19 years. I've been at Turner Monahan for almost 3 now. And
I'm Heather Ogier, and I am a family law attorney, and I've been at Turner Monahan for almost 2 years.
We are going to be talking about concerns for divorcing mothers going through divorce. So what are some frequently asked questions you get from mothers that are going through divorce that you might not be getting from some of your other clients?
I think the very first question that a lot of moms ask when they call to get information about a divorce is if the children are going to be taken away from them, if they're going to lose their kids, if they're going to be able to have enough money to be able to move forward. How are they going to be able to provide for themselves? Those are always the primary first questions that most moms are asking, because there's, a lot of women who are in a position where they've been stay-at-home moms and that kind of a thing. And so they've provided all the care really for kiddos. And so that's their first concern. And then second is just a financial aspect. What are they going to do now? What's the plan moving forward? How best to prepare?
Do you see any new trends that are coming up, especially past COVID, that mothers are dealing with that might not have previously had to deal with?
Not particularly. I mean, there's a little bit more of a concern for individuals who are like work from home kind of circumstances and how they're going to balance working from home with the kiddos and that kind of a thing. I think that's really the only thing I've seen post-COVID that I would think is different than before.
Well, and maybe just the opposite, where the dad is now working from home and mom's working out of the house. Is dad going to have an upper hand on custody because he's available to pick up the kids? And I think it's not really true either, because if you are working from home and you're truly working from home and you're clocking in and clocking out, you really are not available for the children as much as you would think. And so, I think that that's something that I've at least told clients recently, that, just because he's working from home does not mean he is fully available all hours of the working day, because he's really not. And so, that's something that I think helps moms feel a little bit better about them having to work out of the house and the dad now is working at home.
Do you think divorce is any different for mothers here in Dallas-Fort Worth than you've seen in other counties across the state that you've been in?
I do think in some of our smaller municipalities, the really small counties that are probably a little bit more conservative and don't have quite as much of a caseload, there may be still a little bit of that historic perception that moms get a little bit of favor, but that's very few and far between at this point. Really, in all reality, it's very kind of even between moms and dads. We have so many cases where we are getting full custody for moms, so many cases where we're getting full custody for dads, so many cases where we're flipping custody when kiddos are teenagers. So it's really not so much as a gender one way or the other. It really who is in the best position to provide the best possible care for the kiddos, and also who's in the best position to potentially establish and create a co-parenting relationship with the other parent, who can facilitate all those things best. So really in DFW, I don't know that there's necessarily, any courts in particular that lean towards moms more so than dads. Of course, every court's a little different. Every judge is a little bit different, but generally it's kind of even.
Yeah, I'd say that too. I think especially in the Metroplex, there's so many families with 2 working parents. And so as far as, custody goes, when both parents are working and they are both helping transport the kids to and from school or other activities, it becomes really, there's not a better parent in a lot of these cases.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a smaller number of our cases where there's a parent, I call the bad act parent, where either they are doing something that is harmful to the children or they are neglectful to the children. Those are a smaller number of the cases where most of the time the parents are on pretty equal playing field.
Let's talk about the legal framework, especially with Texas state law and the Texas Family Code. Are there any specific key terms that govern mothers through divorce?
No, I mean, most of our statutes are very gender neutral as far as, their application and how they're stated in the family code. There is nothing particularly that gives a presumption to one parent or another because of their gender. It's just parents.
Is there any specific legal terms that mothers should know about, especially when they're going in and fighting for custody of their child here in Dallas-Fort Worth?
Sure. I mean, lots of people will call us and say they want split custody or they want joint custody. Well, those terms don't technically exist in the Texas Family Code. We look at things called joint managing conservatorship.
We don't even have a primary parent legally.
Yeah. Yes. And there is a parent who often will get the exclusive right to determine the primary residence of a child, which most lay people then go, oh, they're the primary parent, they're the decision maker. No, it just basically means that parent gets the right to determine where that kid sleeps at night, specifically. So when potential clients do call and they say they want split custody or joint custody, my first question to them is, what does that mean to you? What does that look like on a day-to-day basis so that I understand kind of what's going on? Or they want to be the primary parent or the sole parent, or I want 100% of the rights. Okay, what does that look like? So understanding that when, from a legal perspective, we're talking about joint managing conservatorship, there are certain rights and duties that we divide between the parents so that we know who's making what decisions. But oftentimes don't be afraid to explain what it is you're trying to accomplish so that then we can say, okay, this is how that works. This is the framework that the court would put in to effectuate that desire.
Right. I would agree.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at religious preferences around mothers going through divorce, does it impact their legal right and responsibility to their children in any way when they go through divorce?
No. I mean, each parent has the same rights and duties and the same obligations to their children to provide, moral training, religious training, to upbring them, to provide clothing, shelter, get them back and forth to school. All of those things are the same. Whether or not you're the petitioner, meaning you're the person that starts the proceeding, or you're the respondent, you still have those obligations to your kiddos. And there's really not any stigma if you're the petitioner. There's no bad thing if you're the respondent. People will call and go, oh my gosh, I want to make sure I file first. Okay, but it doesn't, in the grand scheme of life, make a whole lot of difference in the end, as long as we're still moving down the path as to what's best for you and your family and your kiddos. So there doesn't have to be a whole lot of stress about, oh my gosh, I've got to file first, or, oh no, now I'm in a detriment because I'm the respondent. It doesn't make any difference one way or the other. The end result will still be that the court's going to look at what's in the best interest of your kiddos.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to throw some different questions around. Some are legal, some are just questions that mothers have who've maybe gone through divorce previously, or this is their first time, or maybe it's a modification that they're going through. One of the questions is, can mothers use child support money if they suddenly lose their job for other things inside the house? Let's take a quick pause here. If you or someone you know is navigating divorce or family law matters in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, reach out to Turner Monahan for a free legal consultation. Call us at 817-332-4477 or visit us at tumolaw.com. That's TUMOLAW.com for a free legal consultation. Now, let's get back to Behind the Case.
Yeah. I mean, child support's meant to be used for lots of things. You're supporting your child if you're using it to pay part of your rent, to pay part of the utilities, to provide food for the household, gas for your vehicle. Those are all things that your children experience and, that are necessaries for your kiddos. So child support is not just for buying tennis shoes and extracurricular activities for that kid only. It is to be used for the household because the child is a member of that household and benefits from everything in that household.
Can a mother change their child's last name after they get a divorce?
Only with, maybe, only with the permission of the other parent. Right. Until the child, emancipates. But if they have the permission of the other parent, yeah, they can absolutely do a name change. But it's not something they can unilaterally do in most circumstances.
I know we've talked previously how full custody is not a thing. However, what are some things they need to consider or take into account whenever they're requesting something like sole custody or having the child live with them?
When you're talking about where the kiddos are going to live primarily, I would certainly encourage my clients to think about what the day-to-day is going to look like moving forward. What are you wanting the other parent as far as having access and their availability? Can you get kiddos to and fro? Can you get them to their extracurriculars? How do you get them back and forth to school while you're also working? Daycare situations. All of those things are kind of important so that you have a plan. I typically encourage all of my clients, but particularly my female clients, to come up with a plan, because oftentimes they were not the decision makers in their particular household. They were not the breadwinners in their household. And now they're going to have to figure out how to become self-sufficient and how they're going to raise and transport and deal with all the things that come with being a parent. And if your child's going to be in your home the predominant number of days in a calendar year or in a month, you have to be able to figure out how you're going to get things back and forth. I was divorced when my kiddo was 6 and went from, 2 adults in the household who could help with transportation to really kind of 1, even though his father was involved. And so I had to come up with a plan on how I'm going to do this. I had to figure out how I was going to take care of all of my bills and pay the mortgage and do all of those things now by myself. So I would really encourage all clients, but particularly moms, to really sit down, put pen to paper, and come up with a plan, a budget, a schedule. How can I do all of these things so that it impacts my children the least?
Have you seen anything that's really helped your clients when they're making those decisions?
I think a lot of the things like that Tina was saying about getting a plan together is really the biggest advice we can give our clients, because I think they come into it thinking that we're going to have that plan. And I don't know. We don't know their daily lives. I don't know, even though we do have a lot of their information that they provide to us, I don't know what your day entails and what your needs of your children fully entail. And so we need them to really cookie cutter their own lives and their own schedules. But I think moms especially come in saying that they want sole custody. And I think that is, they don't understand what that word means. And without finding a family violence or some other criminal charge that falls in the family code under that section, they are not going to get sole custody of their children. And so that's where we have to circle back and explain what joint managing conservatorship looks like, and that one parent can be the custodial parent, which is usually the primary parent. I think educating the clients when they first come in, especially when divorce is a surprise to them and they haven't been researching it, that is something that they really need. They're looking to us to help define those terms for them.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of leads us into the next question. Balancing personal life with your custody agreement. How do you talk to your clients about that? And what helps?
Again, it's kind of planning and making and really having them focus on the reality versus what they think the picture should look like. Mm-hmm. Everybody, especially now, these generations, they have Facebook perfect kind of situations. They want their Instagram perfect looking lifestyles. And we do encourage our clients to really focus on the reality that things are going to be very different. Now that you're in this position, there will be a new normal, and how to make that new normal work for them. Mm-hmm. And more importantly, how to make that new normal work for their kiddos, which is sometimes very difficult and very hard. I explain to all of my clients that, really your focus needs to be making this okay for your kids. Mm-hmm. And frankly, you kind of have to put yourself on the back burner mm-hmm. for just a little while, which most parents understand that. And certainly most moms understand that. We typically put ourselves last anyway, but to really focus on making sure that your kids are okay and that they can kind of move through this process and that you're really attentive to their needs. Because there can be a lot of subtle signs about what's going on in a kiddo's world, because mm-hmm. depending on their age, They take things very literally.
Mm-hmm.
They're very black and white. And so they could hear one innocuous comment that you didn't know they could hear.
Mm-hmm.
But children have the hearing of bats. They can hear from across the city if you say something disparaging about someone else in their family. And they could take that in a
especially their other parent.
Yeah, and they can take that very literally in a way that you never even contemplated. And if you're not attuned to what's going on in their world and how they're responding to things, you can miss it altogether. And that could come out so much worse on the back end.
Mm-hmm.
So really just kind of focusing on the now and in the now transition and understanding every day is going to be a new day. Every day is going to be a new experience. And it's okay. There will be good days. There'll be bad days. There may even be some horrible days, but it will get better and you will move forward and it will become easier.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. And also just not only like what you say, but body language.
Mm-hmm.
Kids are sponges and they're going to pick up on all of it. The body language, the tone of your voice when you're talking about the other parent, even though your words may be positive words, but if they have a tone of negativity, the children are going to pick up on that. And that's something they won't forget. And I'd say most of the time over the years, that parent is the parent the children are less close to because they feel that parent, whether intentionally or unintentionally, hasn't been attacking their other parent. And that's the worst part of divorce, truly, is the splitting of the families and the animosity that the parents have towards each other that the kids end up picking up on. And we shouldn't ask our kids to pick sides. That's the hardest thing for kids. And so I think for parents going through divorce, some of the counties around the Metroplex require parenting classes. And I honestly don't think that's a bad thing. I think seeing from an outsider's point of view what it looks like helps a lot, because when you're going through it, any storm in life, you can't see the trauma that's going on and what you could be causing. So I think that would help a lot in a lot of our cases.
So what are some resources you might recommend for mothers who want to help support their kids while going through a divorce transition?
Speaking age appropriately to your kiddos about what's going on without going into all the details. You know, mommy and daddy are going to live in two separate households, but we both still love you. Your family's not splitting. Families are going to live in two different places. Really recognizing that your kids' family dynamic hasn't changed. They still have all the grandparents and all the cousins. Those are all still their family, whether they're on your side or dad's side. I had a client the other day who was talking about how he wanted the right to be able to call his kids in an emergency situation. And I was like, what kind of emergency would you want to call your kids directly for? He's like, well, what if like their grandma dies? Why would you want to call your children directly? You'd call their mom first. And his first response was, why would I call her? It's not her family. True, but it's your children's family.
Yeah.
Your family is your children's family. Your ex's family is your children's family. And y'all are all going to have to know what's going on in each other's families in order to be able to deal with your children. So recognizing that is super important. Allowing your kiddos to talk about their feelings. They get to be mad. They get to be sad. They get to be angry with you and with him, and they get to be scared, and just letting them know that it's okay to express all of those things. And some days they're going to say, I hate you. And some days they're going to say, I love you, and letting them do both of those things and not making them feel bad about it. There's nothing wrong with counseling. If it's something that you don't have the skills as a parent to be able to discuss, and a lot of us don't, get your kiddos in counseling for a little while. So at least they have a third party that's not mom, that's not dad, that they can rail at and not have to worry about hurting anybody's feelings. So there are a lot of resources. I mean, there's many books out there. There's lots of co-parenting websites. There's lots of co-parenting conversations on Facebook groups and things like that. But just recognizing that the way you communicate with the other parent and the way your children see you respond is going to kind of set the tone for them and their future.
I agree.
Thank you so much, Tina and Heather, for joining us today. How can they reach you, and what areas do you serve?
We handle cases in Tarrant, Parker, Johnson, Ellis County as well. We will occasionally go to Denton. We do not typically cross the border and go to Dallas. Life is too short to practice law in Dallas. But But in some circumstances, we will. But typically, we stay here within the Fort Worth Metroplex. And you can contact us through our website, through emails, through telephone. Misty is here. She answers our phone on a regular basis and does our client consultations and is absolutely wonderful. So any of those methods work.
817-332-4477. And our website is tumolaw.com. That's TUMOLAW.com.
We're pausing our deep dive into today's topic, but the discussion isn't over. Join us in the next part of this episode as we continue to unravel the complexities behind the case. If our conversation today sparked questions or you're seeking further insight, consider subscribing and sharing our podcast. If you are in the DFW area and facing a divorce or family law situation, contact our attorneys today at 817-332-4477 or online at tumolaw.com. That's TUMOLAW.com for a free legal consultation. Navigating legal challenges can be daunting, but with the right support, clarity is within reach. Stay tuned as we continue this conversation on the next episode. Please note that the information provided in this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not intended as legal advice. Listening to this podcast or contacting our team does not constitute an attorney-client relationship. For advice on your specific situation, please consult with a licensed attorney in your area.